Who's Champ, back with another YouTube live stream. Shalom, Israel. Shalom, you Negroes. Shout out to my trolls. I hope everybody is doing well today. Today is the Sabbath day. I believe August 22nd, 2026. Don't hold me to that. I'm a little off on my date. On your way in the door, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it to your socials. I appreciate you. Last week or so, I've been really contemplating on an idea, and I've had this thought process previously, but I've really been drilling down in my mind on it. And the question on the table: how long or how do you change a people? I want that question to sink into your brains. What is that process? Or what is a process of changing people? And then, once you start to think about that, I want you to think, how long does it take? How long does it take to change people? And I'm not talking about individuals. I'm speaking of groups, populations, generations. I want you to zoom out. A lot of times, y'all individualize everything. Everything is me, 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 me. And you miss the larger picture. You're too busy here when you should be back here where you see more details and get better understanding. Y'all zoom in too much. You have you got blinders on and you got a very limited perspective, no peripheral vision. How long does it take? How do you do it? Where do you even begin? Oftentimes, and I said this to somebody recently in conversation, you people watch you. And usually it's the people who don't like you, they watch you the most. They are really watching you. And you don't even know they're doing it. and and that gets into envy, jealousy, hatred, those such things, right? They study you and they wait. They wait for opportunities. There's people who have those kind of spirits on them. They don't want to come and contend with you head on full strength. They wait. They wait for opportunities where you may be weak, sick, not at your best. And that's when they like to strike. Those type of people don't have a sense of fairness. I'm gonna put my best self against their best self and see who comes out on top. That's not how they think. It's not what they thinking about. I hate that little menu that. Can I minimize it? No. I think I made it bigger. Anyway, I usually just ignore it. And often it's the people that are around you, closest to you, not just in genetically, but proximity. You might have a neighbor right now across the street from you that hates your guts. And you never spoke to them, never said a word, never had no issue, but they watching you because they envious of you. They hate that you cut your grass better than them. You know, you got more people coming, stopping by to see you when they don't have nobody. Whatever, you have no idea any of this is happening. Who's watching you? But I'm trying to make you aware that keep your head on the swivel, watch the block, whatever terminology you want to use. This is happening. Um, I knew a girl once, and her best friend got pregnant by her husband 3 months into their marriage. And by best friend, I mean her BFF from kindergarten, like lifelong best friend. And she expressed to me that I don't understand why she did that, V. I said, that girl been hating you and jealous of you and envious of you all your lives. And you had no clue. She was like, but she's prettier than me. She got a better body than me. Everybody liked her more than me. She always got all of the guys always had all the attention for her. Nobody paid me any attention. She did. And I'm like, it was something about you that she was envious of. She was jealous of. And I said, given more time, I could really analyze it and come up with a theory. But it's not going to change what I initially said. It wasn't because your husband was so fine or so this or so that. It wasn't even about your husband. Like, your husband was a horrible dude. It was about taking something from you. And she had been planning it for decades and just waiting for the opportunity. And your weakness was you allowed your husband and her to interact on a level that they should not have been able to interact on. Why was your husband had so much time alone with this woman? She's like, I never thought about it that way. That's your weakness. And she capitalized on your naivety, if you will. You were naive and trusting. And sometimes those things can be weaknesses. And a lot of times that's how traps work, snares work. It lulls you into a false sense of security. That's a weakness. That's just one story, and I made it about a relationship. But even with people, you have groups of people who, other groups of people, they study your weaknesses and they wait for the opportunity where they can capitalize on you or on your group. One thing I wish some of you would stop doing is talking to these so called Africans to try to understand your history. That is not your history. And they don't know their own history. These aren't educated people. These aren't successful people. Successful people don't leave their country where they're successful to go to another country to be a cab driver, to drive Ubers and deliver groceries. This ain't coming to America. That's a fable. That's a movie. That's a story. And y'all so quick to believe in fables and fairy tales, and you don't like apply common sense. If you're a king or a prince, supposedly, right, in your country, you're gonna travel. You're gonna leave that, travel halfway across the world to deliver my groceries. That's what you think happened? That makes sense? They selling you on fables. I want you to think about something. The CDC not too long ago ranked black men in America as the best group or most involved fathers, right? But I remember it was a thing at one time. All these black girls wanted to marry an African dude. Wait a minute, you got access to all of these educated, literate, highest ranked men, black men, but you rather go get somebody from a third world country with none of those attributes. They come from a conquered people, and some of them, most of them, were conquered multiple times, not just one time, multiple times over thousands of years. In and out, in and out, in and out. One country come put them in captivity, and then another country, they trade in captivities. They don't know who they are. They've been colonized. They've been subjected to all kind of European religions and religions from the strange nations. They have no clue who they are. You don't see the brothers in the videos. It's thousands of these videos on YouTube where the brothers are going to other countries talking to these people, trying to teach them who they are. And these people are so brainwashed, it's ridiculous. They ain't got no access to no books. They running around the Saharan region in some joggers, tuxedo shoes, and a old NBA championship team that didn't win the championship. Y'all know, like, when they got a championship game, right? They make t-shirts for both sides just in case one side wins. Well, one side is going to win, but they don't know who it's going to be. So they make shirts for both sides. Well, we know Clyde Drexler's Portland Trailblazers didn't beat the Chicago Bulls, right? We know that, right? But there's t-shirts over there on the continent that say otherwise. That's why they send out those shirts that they couldn't sell because Chicago won. Well, they got to do something with the shirts. They send them over there to these third world countries. And they be running around wearing the shirts. A t-shirt, some dress pants, and some Caterpillar boots. I go, you crazy? But that's who y'all want to marry. And that was the thing. And every woman I've ever come across who did such a thing ain't married no more. Wait a minute. I thought black American men were the problem. But you having problems with all men. Interesting. And they're not getting with these men when they're young. They get with these men sometime in their 30s and 40s. You're a mature woman. Why are you making such bad decisions? Hmm. Interesting. Fascinating. But y'all love hearing these stories. I got a cousin who loves telling me about the Moors. Moor is just another word for black. Where the Moors from? Can't tell you. Where's their homeland? Where they country at? What's their belief system? Well, it depends on the time and the place that we're talking about. Because sometimes the Moors were Muslims, sometimes they were Christians, sometimes they were Jews, sometimes they were pagans. Sometimes they spoke Latin, Spanish, Portuguese, Greek, Arab. It's not one group of people called the Moors. It depends on when and where you're talking about. So it's a dumb conversation. Oh, no, no, because the Moors, and I was talking to an African. Man, shut the fuck up. Those the niggas that sold your ass. And now you're going to listen to them? That makes sense? The Bible says, never, never trust thy enemy. Never. Well, if somebody sold your ass into slavery, they are your enemy. But because we don't have no concept or understanding of history, our history, we allow people from the outside to tell us what our history is. Here in America, and supposedly whenceforth we came, right? I had a housekeeper not too long ago. Y'all might remember her. I'm going to say her name. Her name was Gabby. Gabby liked to talk. She was the most confused young lady. She claimed her father was from Ecuador because she was racially ambiguous. So she attributed, I must be something other than black. And even though I don't know my daddy, I'm just going to attribute Ecuador because Mexican sounds dirty, you know. But some kind of way, Ecuador, I guess, is better or a step up from being Mexican, right? Where did those Ecuadorians come from? And at the same time, she was a Christian, black church going person. Where the Ecuadorians come from? Who are they? You think they originated on in Ecuador? Or were those people, did they come from somewhere else? Well, if you believe the Bible, young lady, I said, these lands at one point, nobody ever dwelt in these lands. That means they had to migrate to these lands in the Western Hemisphere at some point. So where did they come from? And you think they got on a plane and then just got off the plane and they there now? No, that's not the way travel worked or migration worked at that time. It took years, sometimes generations to travel. I mean, even look at Moses. That relatively short distance that he took the children of Israel from Egypt into the wilderness. We're not talking about across the world. We talk about a relatively short distance because they went by foot. They was walking, right? But it took 40 years. They spent 40 years in the wilderness. How many generations is that? How many generations can you make in 40 years? Well, look at my age. I'm 50. There's me, there's my children, and then there's my grandchild. My grandchild is 10 years old. So in my 50 years, I'm responsible for 3 generations in that 50-year period of my life. So you think those people who got to the end destination were the same people, completely the same people as that began that journey? Think about that. No, because if you're traveling, migrating over that period of time, there's a culture that's being created because you're in new environments. You got a lifestyle that's different from the people who grew up in Egypt under Pharaoh, under Pharaoh's rule and captivity. Those were different people. Say somebody who's been to jail for 5 years. Is that person culturally the same as, say, you got two cousins? One went to jail for 5 years, one didn't. Are they culturally the same? Or did that prison house change them some kind of way? I lean to the latter. And we call that today, you're institutionalized. I mean, you got guys that have spent 10, 20 years in prison. They are not the same people that went into that jail that came out. And the people that stayed on the outside ain't the same either. As you age, you experience your environment differently. And I'm not talking about on an individual basis, I'm talking about as a group. There's a whole culture, environment plus biology equals culture. What have I told y'all before? You can't change the biology, but you can change the environment. And then at the end of that equation is culture. So if you change the environment, the culture is different. So going back to the Moors, y'all don't. Most of y'all don't who use that word. You don't even know where it comes from. It comes right out the Bible. The Morishites. It's a wonderful book that I've been encouraging for years for y'all to read. Buy this book. Buy this book. If you're really interested in the Moors, because black people want to always be something other than black, even though you're saying black. You're just using a synonym. Moor means black. Get this book. And this wasn't written by black people. Y'all see who wrote the book, right? You see the Uish people wrote the book. Black people didn't write this book. So that means y'all should automatically believe every word that's in this book. Because y'all love believing them other people, the Uish people. Y'all love believing them. I mean, they gave y'all good times. They gave y'all the Jeffersons. They gave y'all gangster rap and then drill rap. You know, they give y'all all that ish y'all love. So you got to believe them, right? Going back to Gabby. This book answers the question that I asked. Where did those black people in Ecuador, how did they get there? Well, when we got conquered in Spain, we got pushed out of Spain and we were trying to make our way to what we call Africa, but we had to go through Portugal. I'll give y'all a brief history lesson. And so we were already speaking Spanish. We were already speaking Portuguese and many other languages. This is a well documented history. You're not going to learn it reading modern American history, but there are books that tell this history, pictures that show these people. No, they weren't Arabs, these were black people. See the pictures. We look different from the Arabs. some of those black people who got pushed out of Spain and Portugal wound up down there in Ecuador. Also, what they did at one point, because we weren't just left to our own devices, we were put in captivity. And the most effective way to change a people is through the children. Separate the children from the parents. Because the natural order of things, right? Biology plus environment equals culture. Who changes or manipulates the environment? The men. That's the man, the male function. And this is throughout the animal kingdom. It's not just humans. It's throughout the animal kingdom this is true. So the men create the culture and the women pass that culture along to the children and then wash and repeat. But if you interrupt that natural order of things, you're changing the equation. Thus, what comes out on the other end of the equal sign, on the other side of the equal sign, is different. So what did they do? The Spanish and the Portuguese. They snatched our children away. And this book teaches that if the children were under 3 years of age or younger, those children were given to Europeans, to the white folk, and then the white folk were going to give those children a good Christian education. Well, what that's a nice way of saying slavery, bondage, servitude. That was a thing for them. There are many pictures, thousands of pictures, paintings, where they posed and they would have the little boys and little girls on a leash. Dress them up like little dolls, put them on a leash, and walk them around. Some of you thinking, oh, that's racist. Yeah, you're right. But you got to understand what racism is, as I try to tell y'all all the time. Racism is wealth, power, and resources. So why is it racist? Because they have the power. You know how much power it takes to be able to separate children from their parents? Groups of people, not one, groups. Take all their children, take all the motherfuckers. It takes power to do that. You have the definition of racism. It's a competitive relationship between groups of people. They're competing for wealth, power, and resources. And when one group has so much wealth, power, or resources, they can force other groups to act against their own best interest. So that's what the Spanish and Portuguese were doing. So when y'all use this word today, systemic racism, as if it wasn't always systemic, it was something else. It was always a system. They purposely identified and targeted 3 years old would be the optimum age or younger to change a people. In a generation or two, those children, they don't remember their parents or grandparents. All they know is what they grew up in. Well, what do you think happens after hundreds of years? Thousands of years. The name Israel is no longer in remembrance. That's what happens. That's one of the curses talked about in Deuteronomy 28. Right? Is it starting to make sense? It took the 3 years old or younger children from their parents and kept them as pets, helpers, slaves, whatever you want to call it. And moved them away from their parents. What happened to the parents? Well, they kept the parents as slaves too. But it's a different process when you're dealing with an adult versus a toddler or a baby, right? Now, again, as I pointed out to Gabby, some of those people did get away. They didn't get 100%. And those few that got away and were able to sail down there to Ecuador, because that's what the Spanish were doing, going around the world, colonizing the world, right? I mean, who you think Columbus was? What they was doing? What do you think the name of them ships were? Those weren't English ships. The Santa Maria, that ain't a English ship. And this was going on, by the way, not just with the Spanish and Portuguese. The English did it, the French did it, the Dutch, the Swedes, the Arabs. They all were doing this, implementing this system. So they separated the parents and the children. Well, the English did it here. We got off them ships down in Charleston and Jamestown, and what did they do? They took the kids away. They sold us and the kids separately. They didn't keep them families together because that was part of the system. Because if you want to change people, you got to separate the children. So a lot of those black Ecuadorians, as we call them now, came from Spain and Portugal. And what were they before? They were some kind of black person, Negro. Could see the old history books makes a a distinction between the so-called Africans and the Negroes. Because they banished a lot of our ancestors from Spain and Portugal to the island of St. Thomas. Y'all don't know this history because the Africans ain't gonna tell you this history. Cause they not gonna tell you what they did. Because the question was growing up for me, we always ask, well, why didn't they come for us? How you take a group of people away from their people and ain't no war? Is this cool? No, they sold us because we weren't their people. They saw us as the competition and they wanted to get rid of us. So how did they get rid of us? Sold our kids off, sold us off to the Arabs, to the white man and whoever else. And then they got colonized. Dummies. But that's who y'all want to marry? Them dumb asses? That's where the Ecuadorians came from. It's in the book. We don't like to read, but we all want to pretend that we know things. But knowledge is in books. And many of y'all don't know how to read. You don't know how to study. You don't know. Obviously, that's the problem. Hold on. Let me get set up. I wasn't ready for that. Okay. Let me. Give me a second. So, they enslaved the parents. And it's easier to move children than it is adults. I'm sure y'all would agree with that. But they you know, and there was mixing of races and things going on. And in Spain, it was like here in America, it was the white men mixing with the slaves. But in Spain and Portugal, it was the white women who were mixing with the slaves at that time. Well, them kids regenerated. They had babies eventually, and then babies grew up, and they had babies. And that's why you go to these places around the world and you see somebody who looks just like your cousin. And you wondering like how that happened. Or you take the DNA test, 23andMe or whatever, Oh, I must be from that place. No, that's where they took your ass. That's why your DNA is showing up over there at this time. Because the we all been scattered. The diaspora scattered throughout the world. So no matter where you go, you're gonna see us. Because we're scattered amongst all nations. But I'm just explaining how it happened. We were told a story that basically they came and got us off the west coast of Africa and brought us here. No, not exactly. We all weren't in Africa, first of all. That's what I tried to explain to that Ethiopian Uber driver. Aren't you African American? No, I'm not. What do you mean? You don't know who you are. First of all, fuck you. I know exactly who I am. And I know when I was born in the 70s, there was no word called African American. That word didn't exist. So what was I? He ain't had no answer with his smart ass. Because again, they want to always try to come over here and teach us our history here. Jesse Jackson made that word up in the 80s, 86. I was 10 years old when that word got made up. Okay? So what was I before then? Exactly. That's another word, African American, Moor, Negro, nigger. Nigger is Latin for black. The Nigger River means the Black River. It's not Niger. That's stupid. It's nigger. And it means black. Black River is what they calling it. But they play word games because they know y'all ignorant and you don't study. So you don't know what these words mean. Santa Claus, Satan Claus, Satan's Claus, Santa Claus. Huh. Ain't that interesting? I don't care how you spell clause. Clause is clause. They got you. And it wasn't until the 1870s when they changed that Santa Claus fable into elves. Because before the elves, Santa's helper was a black man. A lot of you don't know that. See, they know the history, but you don't know the history. Santa's helper was called Swarthy Pete. Pete, after the prophet Peter. Swarthy means black. Black Pete. And it was Santa always had the helper on the leash. Hello. That was his helper. And they told stories that if you were good, you got a present from Pete. And if you were bad, Pete put your ass in the bag and took you away. That's what the bag was for. Y'all don't even know what y'all have. The fuck y'all celebrating. Dummy. Or do some research on Krampus. That'll blow your mind. Right? Read a book on Krampus. They play right in y'all faces. Saint Nick was a pope. Pope Nicholas. That's what Saint Nick comes from. And his helper, Pete, was a big-lipped black man with afro until 1870. Because what happened around that time period? Now it's not illegal for you to read. So they didn't want y'all reading what they was really saying about you all of this time. They had to rebrand it to Saint Pete became Santa Claus. Saint Nick rather became Santa Claus, and they got rid of Pete altogether and replaced him with an elf. The fuck is an elf? You know who also followed that same storyline? Willy Wonka. His so-called Oompa Loompas. They would be considered swarthy skinned, brown skinned, black skinned. That's not an accident. And they were always singing and magical. And they just worked so hard. Everybody loves the Oompa Loompas, right? This is their culture. The Dutch, the Swedes, and it wasn't a reindeer, it was a horse in the beginning. And then the horse could fly. And now the reindeers could fly because they had to rebrand it. And Saint Nick wasn't from the South Pole, but he was from up north, the North Pole rather. He wasn't from the North Pole. He was from up north. But that wasn't as far up north as you think. He had the red suit on, the red Pope hat, and he had Pete on the leash, because that's what they do. Come on, little nigga, you know. Come on, Pete. And they dressed up in costumes as either Saint Nick or put blackface on and pretend to be Pete, swarthy Pete. And they tell their kids, they frighten their kids with the stories. That's why white people are so scared of black people, because of this is in their culture. It's in the book. I don't know how many times I've shared this book, but y'all don't read. But you know everything. You don't know shit. And they laugh in your face. Who else like adopting little swarthy kids? Who was that white big lip woman? Oh, y'all favorite, Angelina. Yeah, Angelina loved, huh, Brad? Loved. Come here, you little nigga baby. You know, they love that. Because that's part of their culture. Having little helpers, little pets, little black pets. This is a good lesson for some of you. Some of you gonna skip right past this video, won't even give it 5 minutes to get what I gotta be saying is fascinating. And then every Christmas, y'all put your little hats on and take your little pictures, not understanding that you're imitating the people who enslaved you and who ridiculed you hundreds of years. Swarthy Pete, Saint Nick, and Nick was riding his horse, his flying horse, right? And he would land the horse on the rooftop, and Pete would go down the chimney. I've even heard people tell the story, oh, Pete wasn't a black person. He got black from climbing down the chimneys. Really? Really? That's what y'all believe? You believe anything they tell you. And these confused Hamites over there on the continent, they don't know who they are. they've been changed, and they grew up believing these stories to be true. All they gotta do is show you a picture of something and you believe it. They'll draw up a picture and be like, huh, this is what it is. And y'all believe it for generations. Because they start instilling it as a kid. So how do you change your people? Through the kids. And I was talking to Amanaz. I was trying to communicate this to her. These kids today are not like us when we were kids. Because we grew up at a time, Gen X, with remnants of the so-called community. Well, we had our parents and grandparents, and we were protected from those things. That's not today's environment. So, can you really blame the parents? No. Oh, the parents have no power to fight against these systems that were put in place to make sure this engine keeps turning the way they want it to turn. And now a lot of their parents have been changed. Think about it. My grandchild is Gen Alpha. Her father is Gen Z. Her mother is Gen Z. It only takes a couple of generations to change your people. That's the answer to that question. Couple generations. And these people, our enemies, have perfected this recipe. You know, a lot of us, the first time we even heard anything like this was the Willie Lynch letters. I'm going back past Willie Lynch. I'm going back to the 1400s, 1300s, and earlier. Willie Lynch existed in the late 1700s. Coincidentally, what did Willie Lynch? See, a lot of y'all believe Willie Lynch is a fable. Well, where did Willie Lynch? Where was he from? The West Indies. Where did those people come from? From the West Indies, Spain and Portugal. Is it not connecting dots for some of you? Hmm. Interesting. Our enemies are long thinking, the Bible speaks of. Long thinking. We can't even think into next week and next month. These motherfuckers is thinking generations, hundreds of years out. Their plans are long term plans. Mm. Trying to free your mind. And you think that's air you're breathing? Hmm. Hmm. How do I keep beating you? Morpheus asked. You think it's because I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm faster in this space? And you think that's air you're breathing, huh? Hmm, he said. Some of y'all think you're so damn smart and don't think about nothing. Nothing. And these books, I think this book was like $10. I won't spend 10 bucks to read your own history. Oh, here's the back of the book for anybody who wants to just scan the barcode on Amazon. If you don't want to type it in, you could do it that way too. And if you go to my TikTok or my community tab on YouTube, Facebook, I post a link directly to where you could buy this book on Amazon. I forget how much, I don't know how much it is right now. But the more this truth get exposed, the higher the price the book, because they don't want you to read the book. So I know when I bought it, it was about $10. It wouldn't surprise me if it's almost double that now, because that's how they do. If you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book, is the proverb. Some of you so dumb you ain't never even heard that one. Never even heard that one. Because they separate, and they're doing it in public schools today. They're further isolating you from your children. That's what I was explaining to Oz. They're further isolating the parents and the children, where the teachers can have conversations with your children and totally eliminate you by law. By law, they can't even tell you what your kid is doing and saying. Now, that was unheard of when she and I were in school. Unheard of. Hmm. That's how they changed the generation. And I think about how my kids react, even when I compare like Imagine to Sundiata, right? My son's name is Sundiata, Sundiata Hassan. And that loosely translates into beautiful lion. Okay. Anyway, Imagine to Sundiata is 7 years. Imagine was born in 2001. Sundiata was born in 2008. But even she says to me at times, I don't know what that boy thinking. Even though they're the same generation, they're at two different ends of the spectrum in that generation, which is Zoomers. And what has happened, they haven't grown up in the same environment. And I don't mean in my household, because they were always in my household. No, not what I mean. I mean the broader environment, that group. You know what hasn't changed? Even from children born in 2000, 2001, men, 1 in 5 will spend some part of their life incarcerated. Even the same thing is true for those born in 2008 and 2009. Even today, 1 in 5 is still that number. It's 20%. 20% of black men will spend some part of their life in prison. Think that's an accident? Even though crime rates have fallen, there's no war on drugs no more. There's no crack epidemic. Ain't no crack babies no more. Even though all of that has gone away, the prison rate for black men has remained steady. Hmm. So when y'all say systemic, y'all have no clue. Racism is just part of it. But you have to implement racism. Prison industrial complex, pipeline to prisons, a miseducation of the Negro. They're not learning how to read. They're not learning arithmetic, language arts, social studies, history, science, biology, carpentry, any kind of trade. They're not learning those things. So you have to ask yourself, school is still the same amount of time. So if they're not teaching those things, what are they teaching? What are they filling that time with? Nonsense, foolishness, social issues. Because what is the system doing? The system is changing people through the kids. Separate the kids and the parents. They're not physically doing it through slavery anymore. They're using other tools to get this. They perfected their method over thousands of years. They've gotten very good at it. And she identifies with these Ecuadorians, these Spanish, and put these Spaniards and these remnants of the Spaniards and Portuguese that enslaved us. Oh, my daddy's from Ecuador. And you're proud of that. Hmm. Interesting. And you think that's area breathing. And that church you go to, they let you run around. They already let you get pregnant and have a baby with some goofy dude. And now you're running around with another goofy dude. And ain't nobody looking out for you. You don't just separate the parents, you also separate, as Willie Lynch put it, the old from the young, the men from the women, the dark from the light. It's more deeper than just black and white. But they blind y'all with that. It's deeper than that. It's layers. That's all I got. I'm not gonna beat this horse. Hopefully, some of you will buy this book, okay, and read it and study it. Study it. How many pages is this book? Oh shit! I'm trying to get to the end. I gotta add some notes to this book too. I gotta transcribe. 119 pages. 100 and... That's such an odd number to stop at, isn't it? I'm an author. I think I've been trying to get 120. Like, I'm at 119. Let me get one more page in here. But anyway, I like even numbers. Hopefully y'all got something out of today's class. Happy Sabbath day, people. Like, subscribe, and share on your way out the door. Thank you for stopping by the People's Podcast. I am your host, V. Ben Israel, the People's Champ, but you can call me V. It's your boy.